Welcome to this month's newsletter. I am so happy to bring to you this month's topic of riding the Great Resignation wave, or how to. But let me start with a little bit of background information about the Great Resignation. The term the Great Resignation came from a gentleman by the name of Professor Andrew Klotz, who was an organisational psychologist, and he studies how people exit organisations. So what he says is that we have experienced a very specific change where people are now valuing things like family time, remote working, community, passion work, life and death, and all that that means. And they're really, really big topics for us, because we have, depending on your thinking and your belief system, we have one crack at this life. I think it's similar to when a person experiences other kinds of change that's foisted on them. For instance, if you go through redundancy, or if you've got a business partnership that goes really badly and you're on the receiving end of how bad that can be. If you get fired from a job, receiving news that you've actually got a really bad illness, when someone dies, when there's a relationship breakup, things like that. Those kinds of big changes for something that's important to you can really throw you off. And this kind of change can be quite stressful, or as I love to say, discombobulating. Because it throws us into a state of not feeling necessarily safe. We might feel under threat, and then we have to go through this process of dealing with it and how you go about doing that. Because people are starting to have more of an appreciation for change and acceptance that change that they may not want is coming their way, I think there's a great opportunity here, and this is where my tips come in for riding the wave of the Great Resignation. So if you're looking for a new job in the same company, or even a new job in a new company, I would suggest you ask questions. Start to have really transparent discussions with your manager, with any hiring managers, and treat interviews or reviews like a conversation. So rather than Q&A, make it an inclusive conversation. And in doing that, so let's say you go to a job interview and you're asked a question that's a behaviour-based question. Tell me about a time when. I want to know the situation, the task, the action, and the result. And then you go in and you answer that question. Nice, neat box. And you go, ta-da! That's my answer. I think the most successful interviews or reviews are where there's a conversation. So if you might be asked that question, tell me about a time. And if you've planned ahead and you've thought about all of the things that they might want to know and understand, all of those times that pop out in your career, the examples that you've got, and I would suggest that you have about 5 examples that you can talk about, and I suggest that you heat map all of the qualities, expertise, and then the results from those examples so that you can see this beautiful heat map which tells the story of you. And so if you're in an interview conversation and you say, tell me about a time, you can turn around and you go, look, I've got actually a few examples. There was a time about that, this one, give them the menu. Which one would you like to hear about? And then they get to choose, but they start to appreciate the depth of your experience. So they go, okay, tell me, okay, I want that one, that example. So you share that example, but you weave in, and by the way, when I was working at so-and-so on that project, this is what I did. It's very similar, but what we did is we expanded on that idea, and you start to paint a picture for the person who's doing the interview or review. And then you can ask them questions. So tell me what of what I've said piques your interest? What would you like to know more about? Etc., etc. And then if you're in an interview conversation, then I would suggest you ask questions of the interviewer to get them to unpack what the place is like, what kind of leadership style they've got, what you could realistically expect. A client of mine at the moment is going through interview, went to this interview with what she considered to be a more conservative organisation to where she normally goes or would work. How do new ideas get floated around here? What happens with new ideas? And this leader turned around and just said simply, just ask. Well, it's not much of an answer, is it? Just ask. The secondary question that you could ask in that situation is, well, tell me about a time when someone came with a transformative, innovative, different idea that was, in their mind, worthy. How did that go? Tell me about the experience from your perspective. Don't be put off by pat answers like just ask. Dig deeper, take it lower, get them to equally share in the conversation, which is why I say think about an interview as a conversation, think about a review as a conversation, make it a good conversation. And then you'll also take some of the heat out of it. So to ride the Great Resignation wave, if you're thinking of moving, if you are having a review, you want to change jobs, treat it like a conversation. Treat it as though they have to equally justify what they're worth to you as you do to them. As I said, if you're going for a new role, it is okay for you to ask a couple of challenging questions of the person you're meeting with. Questions like, what would people say about the way you lead? Or, what's the best thing someone said about you in the past 6 months? Another question could be about the company, industry, or workplace trends. So today, in this video message, we're talking about riding the Great Resignation wave. So a question that you could ask when you go into an interview could be something along the lines of this. I've heard about the Great Resignation that's coming, and I'm wondering what thoughts you have of what impact it would have for the organisation or industry in the next 12 months. Now, this is an explorative question, and hopefully the person that you are having a conversation with will have something useful to say, but their response will tell you a lot. If they go, oh, I don't know much about it, I haven't read anything about it, so I don't know, I don't have an opinion, that might tell you that they are not interested in going there with you. Might tell you that they don't have knowledge and are not feeling like they could branch into even having a hypothetical conversation with you. If they turn around and they go, yeah, I've heard about it, I don't know much about it, but what comes to mind for me is we've had in this organisation, really, we've always had great retention. Our retention sits at a smooth line of X%, let's call it 8%, 15%, 20%, whatever. Different industries have different retention rates. And this is what I think it might do for us. Then you know that they're a thinker, that they are prepared to have a conversation if they don't know what the answer is, but they're going to explore ideas. And that will tell you whether, will give you a clue as to whether that's the kind of place you want to be. So thanks for tuning in. I'm very pleased to have shared my thoughts. I hope you found them useful. Get in touch if you want to have a chat about anything. Until next month, take care.